Hi everybody, this is Hero and welcome to another Dragonflight video. In this video I'm taking a look at Enhance Shaman and I'd like to present a Mythic Plus or AoE style build for the spec tree. Before I do that, just a couple of brief comments about the changes for Enhance overall. I like the class tree and how it's designed around various kinds of Swiss Army knife utility, the return of things like Poison Cleansing Totem, Mana Spring Totem. We get Lightning Lasso as a baseline potentially. You have Stone Skin. All of these are cool ideas, even from a PvE perspective. But the PvP players are probably going to love lots of the other utility that are offered right across this tree, and it's very accessible. In addition to this, there are two enhancement things that are relevant for the next expansion. The Return of Flurry, which complements a lot of what goes on for Shaman throughput, Maelstrom weapon generation, and some of the damage profiles like Doomwinds. The return, or the new idea of Raging Maelstrom combined with things like Overflowing Maelstrom. What Raging and Overflowing essentially do is offer the player a broader palette for the use of their Maelstrom weapon charges. Instead of it being a GCD cramp, because your regular abilities like Storm Strike and Lava Lash are generating so much that you have to press a lot of spenders, every 5 Maelstrom weapon essentially. Now we can build up to 15, and our spenders use up 10. Essentially that means you have more room and less GCDs devoted to spenders. Essentially cut in half, right? Because usually you would spend 5, and now you can wait and spend 10. That's a really good option for players to have, and it broadens the pool of builds that will be accessible for players who like Enhancement Shaman, but really dislike the fact that for a long time they have been GCD cramped. There's still probably going to be a little bit of it because we retain Stormbringer and, Hot Hands as ideas, but there are some builds I think here that really give a lot of range of autonomy. Either you're very busy and there's a lot of GCD cramp, or there's some builds that are a little more automated. This is a Mythic Plus approach, and it uses basically two main pillars. On the one hand, we have a lot of Lava Lash focus, and on the other hand, we have Crash Lightning focus. And the purpose here is to essentially spread Flame Shocks and make use of these 3 CDs in Mythic Plus pulls. One is basically every pull we're expecting to have, or every pack we're expecting to have Prime Wave up, and we go down the whole tree to grab all of the goodies, including the old legendary effect, which gives us haste. That's going to amplify a couple of pieces of the build, including Crash Lightning alongside the new Alpha Wolf. So you can imagine you run in Flame Shock, Lava Lash once to spread, Prime Wave another target, and then you get your 10 stacks and you immediately Lightning Bolt to gain all of the haste. Now your doggos, when you press Feral Spirits, are going to cleave with a lot of haste onto Crash Lightning targets. So you hit Crash Lightning on a giant pack, and all of these dogs hit all nearby enemies for 8 seconds with a giant haste amp. Seems good to me. So this is every pack. Feral Spirits with Witch Dr. Wolfbone is going to be every other pack, basically, at 1.5 minutes, so it synergizes nicely here. And then Ascendance is basically at a 3-minute CD every four packs, something like that. We have this here for the burst AoE damage from pressing the button. You obviously get a little bit of extra damage into Crash Lightnings with your auto attacks and reduced Storm Strikes, but really the focus of the build is that Ascendance is offering us Maelstrom stack generation and a bit of utility for moving around. The lion's share of the build is going to be focused on Lava Lash, and we've buffed it in all of the ways that are relevant. A lot of CD reduction here, 3 seconds here. Primal Lava Actuators is reducing the cooldown. Hot Hands itself is also reducing the cooldown. So you can see when you get a Hot Hands proc, you're going to be pressing Lava Lash really often, basically every GCD. And with Prime Wave on a pack, that's a lot of extra Lava Lash damage that's amplifying your gameplay. Storm Strike we've kind of moved away from, and I only have Wind Fury weapon here as a choice because we want to be able to generate Maelstrom weapon stacks from our auto attacks. So we could have chosen a few other things, but I think it's probably just a DPS increase to have this extra chance to get 2 extra attacks, which will give us Maelstrom weapon stacks. We'd have Flurry in this build as well. That's the core of it. It is supported by Elemental Blast, which would take the place of one of the Chain Lightnings, and at 10 stacks, this is going to do a significant amount of damage in single target, of course, but the buff that you get is excellent for a Mythic Plus profile, where you can have every single pack combined together with the giant haste amp, an amplified set of secondary stats to go with it. This is also giving us some of the utility of Sundering, and then we have as another button to press, complementing it, Fire Nova, which I don't think is going to scale that well because it's limited to a certain number of targets, but in general, it's not a bad button to have to press at the end of your rotation, or even, I mean, it's a good button in general in AoE, but it's not something that is too taxing for us. Keeping it focused on Lava Lash, Crash Lightning, Fire Novas is already going to be pretty GCD cramped once we have all these other pieces in place, but this is a nice unified piece. It would work very consistently in Mythic Plus. That's why I envision it as Fortified. But the best part, guys, is this is just one idea. I had a bunch of other ideas just for Fortified, just for Mythic Plus. You can take things like Hailstorm. You can take things like Ice Strikes down here with Swirling Maelstrom and start cleaving Frost Shocks. You can think about a Storm Strike only build, and you pick up all of the relevant Storm Strike buffs, things like Gathering Storm alongside Crash Lightning, things like Legacy of the Frost Witch. You could do an Ascendance build with Doom Winds in an AoE setting. So your Crash Lightning is essentially enabling these huge 1-minute burst windows, and every 3 minutes, those burst windows include an incredible amount of throughput damage because we're going to be firing off lightning bolts not for free, but automatically. So it's not something that you have to use as a GCD. You can just have an insane amount of Storm Strikes poured into these Crash Lightning moments. So I think Enhanced Shamans have lots to look forward to. Not only do they have the return of a lot of cool utility, but in this case, you have a couple of really focused builds for any kind of encounter. In this case, the Mythic Plus Fortified style on the fire side, with lots of other options that are tantalizing as well. So I'll try to get some more of those other options on the table for you in another video, but I thought I'd just put this one out for now to say, check this out when you get a chance. We'll see you guys again next time.